Warning. What you are about to watch is a true story. The following program contains content that some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
What does a person sound like when they are telling the truth about the worst day of their life? Do they stumble over the details, or deliver them cleanly, in order, like someone who has told it many times before? And when two people describe the same hour on the same beach, and their accounts do not line up, does that make one of them a liar, or does it just mean two frightened people remember a crowded afternoon differently? Hold on to those questions, because 6 weeks of headlines have not answered them. A sealed autopsy has not answered them, and the clips filling your feed tonight cannot answer them either, because nearly every one has been altered. I have the recording the state actually released. I have the full interview, unclipped. Tonight you get both, exactly as they exist. You are watching Crime Watch Hub. If you want the version of this story that stops where the evidence stops and refuses to guess past it, hit like right now and subscribe.
What do you mean it's a quote from a mob movie?
Because if you don't do that, once you're in court, now you just can't leave.
Katie's Snapchat picture, I've been saying that there was somebody in the background here wearing red shorts. Carter, who trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And by Warren's own admission, his brother put someone in an arm bar. Pretty unique bracelet. Unique like the bracelet that Bart Jr. was wearing in that tattoo picture. And right here looks like it might be the tail end of a tattoo that wraps around the forearm.
I mean, he's on the phone. Wouldn't you think that you would have seen Nolan on the bottom of on the floor or something? Or scrambling around, or everybody in a small space on the boat looking at him or something. I mean,
What an absolute wild thing to say when so many people have seen this video and slowed it down and noticed that there's either like a hand or a foot or something that comes flying up when they tug on the toe right there. Like, I can't believe that they said that. But please, please, please put out this interview. Please give me something to tear apart. Y'all, I swear I see Warren stop breathing when he starts this sentence, and he doesn't move again until he closes it out. Watch. They try to cover it up with an edit.
on the phone, wouldn't you think that you would have seen Nolan on the bottom of on the floor or something? Or scrambling around, or everybody in a small space on the boat looking at him or something. I mean,
Let's go through a speed run of the information. We can now definitively say that this is Jax. We can also now definitively say that this is Morgan. He's wearing the same hat as well as the same bracelets. So where were they on the Triton? Now that we've got a much clearer video thanks to Officer Tatum, it's obvious that there is nobody in an orange swimsuit or a paisley swimsuit on this boat. We also barely see that there's somebody here in the red shorts. Now in this Katie Snapchat picture, I've been saying that there was somebody in the background here wearing red shorts. So I pumped up the exposure, and as you can see, it certainly looks like it. They seemingly have similar body types as well as similar hairlines. We also know that whoever was in the red shorts was also on the shoreline when the fight broke out. Now who was involved in that fight? Warren's brother, Carter. Carter, who trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And by Warren's own admission, his brother put someone in an arm bar. And in case you don't know what that looks like, go ahead and look at that placement on the back of the head there. Spot look familiar? Given Carter's height, build, body type, this looks like it could be him. But one blurry, underexposed picture is not solid proof of anything, right? But we know Warren grabbed his younger brother and had him come over hang out with them on their boat as they were sinking or whatever. And it would be pretty bad for their case if this was Carter on the Triton and then on Katie's boat at 6 o'clock. But now my attention turns to this person who a lot of people think is Bart. But in his hand, he is holding a cell phone. So I thought, why would Bart jump from his boat to the other boat holding a cell phone when other people have cell phones in their hands while Wyatt is on the phone in the picture? So while I was trying to compare pictures of Bart to the person on the boat that I can't identify, I found this picture with him with a tattoo from about 2 years ago. And it wasn't until just today that I stopped looking at the tattoo and I started looking at his wrist. Because someone in the background of this picture has always stuck out to me, because my instinct always was like, is that Bart? Bart seemingly has a pretty pronounced mullet, as according to this picture. But this was definitely not on Bart's boat. I checked the seating and the covers, like it's not Bart's boat. Now, I think you pretty much get where I'm going with this, because then I remembered this bracelet. Pretty unique bracelet. Unique like the bracelet that Bart Jr. was wearing in that tattoo picture. And right here looks like it might be the tail end of a tattoo that wraps around the forearm, right in the same place that it would be on Bart. I've said for a while now that the story about them calling Bart that morning to go out on the boat never made sense, because what 21-year-old didn't already have plans for 4th of July? So then the question is, who is driving Bart's boat? Which brings me back to this guy who some people have thought looked like Bart. However, we do know that he was on Bart's boat handing out drinks to people in that 7-second clip we've seen. Same hair, same glasses, same hat. By the way, did y'all know that Bart has a younger brother? The family resemblance is very striking. I mean, the real difference is that he's a little bit shorter and has a squarer jaw. And does anybody want to guess what his younger brother's name is? Brooks. Now, I seem to remember, and I can't remember exactly the context, a certain somebody talking in an interview about his buddy Brooks. Here's your reminder to check out my bio if you want to support my work. Folks, I have really outdone myself because I'm sure you're here wanting my take on part 2 of the interview, but we're not going to talk about that. Trust me, you're gonna want to be sad. Thanks to this interview, I was able to finally, definitively put faces and names together, and then it hit me. We now know for sure that this is Jax, and now we know for sure that this is Morgan. He's literally wearing the same hat and the exact same armbands. So why aren't they on the Triton? A very unique blue swimsuit and an orange and yellow swimsuit. And now, thanks to Officer Tatum, we finally have a very clear video of them calling for the sea tow, and I don't see an orange swimsuit anywhere. I don't see a paisley swimsuit anywhere. So where are Jax and Morgan on this boat? We see what looks like Jax cuddling up to Katie on Bart's boat. So is this Bart over on their boat? Because here he was in that video handing out beers from his boat, and the sunglasses and the hat look the same. But what if it's not? Just stick with me, I'm going to come back around to it. Because now I want to talk about Warren's 17-year-old brother, Carter. Carter, who we know got into a fight with someone and put someone in an armbar on the shore. Carter, who Warren said he told to come over and hang out with all of them and chill out. Carter, who practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Notice the hand placement. And if you're like me, I had to go look up and see what an armbar exactly is and how it is done. And oh, look at the placement of that arm. Yeah. Now this seems to me like it definitely could be Carter. The picture was just taken in December, so the haircut, the hairline, the body type, all of it. We also know that the person in the red shorts were on the shore when the fight happened. Now y'all remember this picture, the Katie Snapchat pictures? Well, I brightened it up. All I did was just pump up the exposure, nothing else, and look in the background here. Oh, red shorts, just like I said. Lighter colored hair with a very familiar looking back of the neck. Now, of course, I'm not saying whether this is or isn't Carter. Boy, this wouldn't look good for anybody if this is Carter on Katie's boat at 6:02. But you know, one underexposed, blurry picture a smoking gun does not make. Unless somebody with a very unique haircut and a very distinct piece of jewelry happens to show up in one of these pictures. Because Mullet Boy here has always bothered me because for some reason he's wearing what looks like jeans. Not saying they are jeans, just can't definitively prove one way or the other whether they are or not, or if it's just the design of the swim trunks. When I went back through some of the photos I had collected of Bart Jr. to try and figure out if this was him or not, I found this picture I had archived. Thanks to the tattoo in this picture, which is the reason I screen grabbed it, that's why I'm like, I don't think this is Bart, because I feel like I would see the tattoo there, but and mind you, this picture is a couple of years old, but I just kind of wanted a timeline for this tattoo for identification purposes. And then I stopped getting distracted by the tattoo on his arm, and I looked at the bracelet on his wrist. Pretty unique set of bracelets, right? I mean, hopefully by now you've figured out where I'm going with this. Why, what a unique set of bracelets! So between the mullet and these bracelets, someone may come to the conclusion that Katie and Bart were on a boat together. Maybe not Bart's boat, because after all, they're claiming that this boat belonged to a Marty McGrath, who was the one who came and got people. But if that's Bart here, then who was driving Bart's boat? Did you guys know that Bart has a younger brother? Very similar looking, but I'll tell you what, very different jawlines. Almost like the jawline of this person on the Triton. And guess what his brother's name is? Brooks. Now, where have I heard that before? Hasn't somebody talked about my buddy Brooks in previous interviews? I always said the whole "we called Bart that morning" story didn't make fucking sense. I have a theory that I'm fleshing out. But thanks for doing this interview, guys. Wouldn't have been able to figure this out without you. But since we're all liars and grifters anyway, just a reminder to everybody to check out my link in my bio if you want to support my work. I told you that lawyer was giving away the game when he kept saying just their 3 names over and over again. What do you mean it's a quote from a mob movie?
Because if you don't do that, once you're in court, now you just can't leave. Now you just can't leave.
Maybe if you're trying to convince the general public that these boys are innocent, don't quote a mob movie in which they then beat up a bunch of bikers at a bar. And it seems quite obvious to me that this lawyer, instead of, presenting evidence that would help exonerate them in the public eye, like showing the actual security cam footage of when they came home or the text messages with Katie. No. Instead, we're going to keep it focused on race, which you can see by this clip.
People are pushing the narrative of, oh, this is a race thing. Well, obviously it's not. I mean, this is like a brother to us. I mean, Nolan's no different than anyone else in our group. I also want to say, I think it's so criminal that they took something so anti-racist and flipped it into something super racist. Like they took, this is the definition of anti-racism. I mean, that we did not look at Nolan any different than I looked at him, or even you.
Okay, first off, that "even you" was wild. It's quite clear from that sentence that Jax has never had an actual conversation about racism in his entire life. I was friends with a black person. That's the most anti-racist anybody's ever been. This situation was the most unracist thing that's ever existed. It's the media. They're the ones making this racist. No, you don't understand what that means. It means your story doesn't hold water, and when people called you out on it and called out the investigation on not even investigating, that is systematic racism. It's very, very clear to me that the lawyer is the one telling them to keep the focus on race. Because you can see the lawyer and the gears in his head turning and nodding and agreeing along with all of the racial stuff. And you can see him kind of being like, yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying, yeah. So it's very clear that that was one of the bullet points that the lawyer told them to hit home over. And another one was the Coast Guard. Why would I call the Coast Guard if I knew he was dead? I called the Coast Guard right away. First off, you didn't. You waited till 11 o'clock. Second, it's not like the Coast Guard searched for him that night. Warren clung to that like it was a safety raft.
I think from the beginning, I'm glad that I called the Coast Guard. It would have been completely different. I'm glad I called the Coast Guard.
It's like, I'm sorry, Warren, but it's actually way more suspicious that you called the Coast Guard. Because first, you didn't want to call the Coast Guard when you guys were sinking. And then for some reason, you assumed that Nolan was still out on the island at 11 o'clock at night. Why wouldn't you assume that he came back with the person he was supposed to come back with and something happened to him in transit? Because no reasonable person would think that he was still out on the island, in my opinion. Because in your own words, Warren, you said you didn't talk to Katie till the next day. And then speaking of the island, the lawyer tries to say that by them going to the island and looking around, that it absolutely exonerates them and that the narrative couldn't be this, and ends it with a wild statement, mind you.
People who have been sucking up way more oxygen than they're entitled to have not been to the island. I'm willing to bet that a lot of the hustlers and profiteers and liars have not been to that island. And you have to go to that island. And being at the island today was revelatory. It was really illuminating. It's a very dynamic marine environment, first of all. But when you go to the island, you see instantly that what some people want to be true, what they wish to be true, they're trying to wish it to be true. They're trying to make it true through their lies. It's actually not possible. It is a very, very long and narrow barrier island. It's basically very low sand dunes. And the particular part of the island that we're dealing with, there are no trees. It's hardly any foliage, hardly any tree cover, hardly any plants, and it's wide open. And on July 4th, there were thousands of people there. There is no possible way that anybody could have committed a murder in broad daylight.
Murder? Who's saying anything anything about a murder. Most of us are under the assumption that an accident happened and they covered it up. All of this stuff that they keep trying to point to as evidence that they didn't do anything to him are not actually evidence. You know what is evidence? The security cam footage. Explain to us why the grandfather was the one who canceled the CTO. How about that? And what I see is just a complete lack of responsibility with these boys. Because listen to this phrasing.
I wish we would have never, like, I think about this every day. Like, I wish we would have never went out on the 4th of July because I know this wouldn't have happened.
You see, instead of saying, I should have made sure my friend got home safely, they said, I wish we had never gone out. And I have to admit, my little antennas buzzed a little when it sounded like he was going to say, I knew this was going to happen, right? That seems like what he was going to say. It wasn't, maybe we shouldn't have been underage drinking. They literally say, we did everything right.
I mean, there's not much I would change from my point of view and my friend's point of view. I think we did everything right, and I know we did nothing wrong.
Those are not the words of somebody who lost their brother, their best friend, a month ago. And I lost one of my closest friends in a non-suspicious way. I blamed myself, even though I hadn't even physically seen her in a couple of years. And for those of you guys saying that Jax is the one that people should press, I fully disagree. He is the one that I think is the scariest out of these interviews. Watch the way he looks at Warren during this moment.
We live in a very tight-knit community, and for people to, push back and say these things when they know what Ocean Springs is like, it's really hard. And I mean, I don't think I haven't had many personal encounters, but I know being around the
Oh, he felt like he was saying something to Warren. Because let's not forget, it was his grandparents' house that they all got together at. It was his grandparents' house that they went back to and thus should have security cam footage from. And out of all of them, Jax is the one that is holding his body in a different way, who is more controlled, more level-headed. If these kids were truly looking to exonerate themselves, they would actually start addressing some of these questions, like, who was the fourth boat? Why were all of you huddled up out there together? Who drove the fucking Palm Beach? Alright, let's try recording this video for the third time. First off, what in the cosplay was this lawyer doing? As if he isn't a lawyer from New York. He's just throwing on some good old boy dog whistle clothes. What I've seen so far, this was a weird interview. From the baseball signals he was giving, watching these boys as if he was their warden, and wearing a hat advertising the law firm that you're working with is weird. But this lawyer kind of proved my point a little bit when I suspected that he wasn't going to be a very good lawyer and just was actually a bully behind the scenes. Because did y'all pick up on this?
About Morgan, Jax, and Warren, I'm not going to call them untruths or half-truths or falsehoods. I'm going to call it what it is, lies. Morgan, Warren, and Jax left the island at about 4:30 p.m. That's it.
Yeah, did anybody else pick up on him constantly repeating Morgan, Jax, and Warren? Morgan, Jax, and Warren are innocent. Morgan, Jax, and Warren left at 4:30. That language is intentional. He's intentionally excluding all the other people on the boat, all the other people that went to the beach. And you might notice he conveniently left out the brother in all of this. Aren't you also representing his brother? And yet you intentionally say stuff like this.
Morgan, if you lied about Jax, if you lied about Warren, we're going to get you. And you're going to be hauled into court. You're going to be held accountable. And it's going to be very painful. And what I would say to the people who have done that is, now's your chance. If you want to apologize and retract before you find yourself in court, you should probably do that now. Because if you don't do that, once you're in court, now you just can't leave. You won't be able to get out of it. And we're not going to name names because there's some other folks who are doing that, and we want to be better than that. And I want to emphasize this, right? We're not here to guess. We're not here to speculate. We're only going to deal in facts, right? And here's the most important thing, right? We don't know how Nolan Wells died. No one here is saying we know. But what we do know is Morgan, Jax, and Warren had nothing whatsoever to do with Nolan Wells' death.
Did you see it? Did you see how they intentionally left out so many people? And I thought he drowned. It was an accident, right? Isn't it weird how in none of these interviews they're ever like, this was an awful accident. We should have made better choices that day and looked out for our friend. But in the end, he drowned. And can we just talk for a second about the weird laugh they did there? Let's show it again.
If you don't do that, once you're in court, now you can't leave. You won't be able to get out of.
What the hell was so funny about that? That was the mask slipping, y'all. That's how they really feel about all of this. There's no logical reason a lawyer would actually advise any of their clients to go and keep doing these interviews, because this is all just a media PR stunt. They know that they're never going to be held accountable, but they are just so worried about their name being Googleable that they're desperately trying to send up the signal to try and revamp their public image. This whole interview, in my opinion, is just the lawyer doing what I thought he would try to do and bully and intimidate people into silence. Because as someone who has gotten several cease and desists in my life, they don't give you warnings. They don't tell you, oh, you better retract it or else we're gonna then get you to court. No, a cease and desist is your warning. A warning that means nothing. Personally, I don't think there's gonna be a single person that they ever bring to court for defamation. And if anything, this lawyer repeating over and over just Morgan, Jax, and Warren implies that what he's actually saying in lawyer speak is that these are the only three with clean hands. Which is why, again, it is so weird that his brother is not included in this list. I've got a lot more to say about this interview, so I'll be making another video today for sure. But one thing I need to say is, if you really want to keep coming on here and proclaiming your innocence, why don't you actually show us the evidence that you claim that you have? Show us the text messages with Katie. Jack's buddy, go ahead and show us that security cam footage of all y'all coming home. Feels like that would be the most definitive way to shut us up, now wouldn't it? Until you do that, nobody feels bad that you can't buy a fucking Gatorade. Nolan is dead. My bad, folks. I've got to re-upload the video because I accidentally left something in it, so I had to re-edit it. But here we go. Let's try it again. This was the most bizarre good old boy cosplay I have ever seen in my life. Let's keep in mind that that Trump lawyer that they hired is from New York, and I have never seen a lawyer sit down with their clients and do an interview with them in the least professional attire I have ever seen, while also advertising another law firm on their hat. We all saw how weird this interview was, right? It was like a prison warden keeping checks on them. And not only was he doing the weird baseball signals throughout the interview, not only was he in the most defensive position out of anybody in this group, after I watched this interview, he kind of proved me right in that I think he's a bad lawyer who's using bullying tactics behind the scene, and that's what he's good at. Because did anybody else pick up on this?
About Morgan, Jax, and Warren, I'm not going to call them untruths or half-truths or falsehoods. I'm going to call it what it is, lies. Morgan, Warren, and Jax left the island at about 4:30 p.m. That's it.
Did anybody else pick up on that? That over and over again, he was specifically saying Morgan, Jax, and Warren, blah, blah, blah. They didn't do anything. They left the island at 4:30. If you're telling lies about them, you're in trouble. He's intentionally and purposely omitting everybody else that was on the boat, everybody else that was in the group that day. And that right there is very telling to me. Now, I personally do not see the logic in the lawyer advising these boys to do another interview, unless it's to try and threaten and intimidate the people that they're gonna go after for defamation. Because they keep saying this over and over again. We're gonna sue for defamation. We're gonna bring these people in and we're gonna sue them. And at one point, the lawyer even says this.
Morgan, if you lied about Jax, if you lied about Warren, we're gonna get you. And you're gonna be hauled into court. You're going to be held accountable, and it's going to be very painful. And what I would say to the people who have done that is, now's your chance. If you want to apologize and retract before you find yourself in court, you should probably do that now. Because if you don't do that, once you're in court, now you just can't leave. You won't be able to get out of it. And we're not going to name names because there's some other folks who are doing that, and we want to be better than that. And I want to emphasize this, right? We're not here to guess. We're not here to speculate. We're only going to deal in facts, right? And here's the most important thing, right? We don't know how Nolan Wells died. No one here is saying we know. But what we do know is Morgan, Jax, and Warren had nothing whatsoever to do with Nolan Walls' death.
Once again, being overly specific and giving away the game. Oh, if you lie about Morgan and Jackson Warren, we're gonna haul you into court. We don't know anything, but Morgan, Jackson, Warren are innocent. But I thought he drowned. Aren't they all innocent? Isn't it all just a terrible accident? Notice how not once has anybody in any of these interviews said that this was just a tragic accident. And mind you, if they were actually being defamed, those letters would have been sent out. They wouldn't go and give an interview warning people, you better retract it or then we're gonna come for you. As someone who has had several cease and desist letters sent to them, they don't warn you, because cease and desist letters in themselves don't matter. They aren't anything. They are the warning. What was that weird fucking laugh they all had together?
Once you're in court, now you just can't leave. You won't be able to get out of it.
That was the mask slipping. That was them showing us who they really are. I've got a ton more I want to say about this interview so far, but I think it's important that we need to keep the pressure on, because look at Warren is crumbling. He's literally wearing the same shirt that he wore in the last interview when they went to the island, and just look at the difference. Personally, I think it's important that if we are going to be giving Officer Tatum the views on these videos, that we need to be expressing our opinions in the comment section, not fighting with people. And I can't help but wonder why Warren's brother was left out of all of those proclamations.
In the second week of August, 3 young men sat down for a recorded interview with their attorneys. Not a network broadcast, but a podcast, released in 2 parts. Within hours, the clips were everywhere. Beside them sat Edward Paltzik, a New York defamation specialist whose past clients include a sitting president in actions against major news organizations. There was, he said, a 0% chance his clients did anything wrong. Then, to the internet directly. If you lied about Morgan, if you lied about Jax, if you lied about Warren, we are going to get you, and you are going to be hauled into court. Retract. Apologize. Correct the record. Warren Hudson spoke about the day itself. He wished they had never gone out on the 4th of July. He knew, he said, that they did everything right and nothing wrong. Now hold that against the recording. At roughly 4 o'clock that afternoon, a teenager aboard the boat called Sea-Tow, a private marine assistance service. Mississippi's Department of Marine Resources released that call in late July. He says they are at the west tip of Horn, the bilge pump has stopped working, they are sinking, and asks whether someone can please come. The dispatcher asks one specific question. Is everyone on board and in good health? The answer is yes. 7 people aboard. Life jackets available. Then the dispatcher offers the Coast Guard. The caller declines. No, he says. They do not need that. The call runs 8 minutes on bad reception, because there is no marine radio aboard. And then it is cancelled. Not by the caller. By the vessel's owner, a relative, who tells the Sea-Tow captain they do not need help right now, but he will call back if anything changes. No boat is ever sent. You have probably heard a different version, an enhanced one, where voices beneath the static supposedly ask whether someone is dead. A forensic audio expert examined that file. It ran at least 20 seconds longer than what the state put out, and a forensic firm comparing transcriptions of both could not confirm a single claimed word. I am not playing it for you, not because it clears anybody, because a recording that grew 20 seconds cannot tell you anything true about a boy who is still dead. What is not in dispute is the GPS. At 4:31, the boat left Horn Island, towed nearly 3 miles. Fort Bayou at 5:52, the dock at 6:06, onto a trailer by 7:19. Nolan was not aboard. The explanation offered is that he chose to stay behind with a young woman he met that day. Hudson has said he shouted for him to get on the boat, that they did not simply leave him. She has been identified as Katie McCormack. Her sister Gracie gave reporters a different account. Katie assumed he was getting ready to board the boat he arrived on, because she assumed the friends calling him would not have left without him. Both sides agree they spoke. Both agree he did not board. One says he chose to stay. The other says she watched him preparing to leave. In neither version does anyone walk him down to the water. The Coast Guard was not contacted until around 11 that night, 7 hours after the boat docked. Their entire public statement about that call is that it did not require Coast Guard assistance. Nothing launched to search until after noon the next day. His body was found on the morning of the 6th by a park ranger at the island's northwestern tip. On the 7th, the state performed its autopsy. That same day, the Jackson County Sheriff said investigators did not suspect foul play. The autopsy was not finished until the 31st and has never been released. The district attorney says every death in the county goes before a grand jury first. The family commissioned their own. Dr. Roger Mitchell, formerly chief medical examiner of Washington, D.C., found a large area of red discoloration deep in the tissue at the back of the head. No fractures, no lacerations. Cause and manner, undetermined. And here is what almost nobody reports. The trachea was not there. Neither was the hyoid bone, the small horseshoe in the throat that fractures under strangulation. The lungs had already been dissected, so they could not be checked for water. The two examinations that separate drowning from everything else, he could perform neither. He wrote that he could not rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or a cause of death. There are 91 minutes on that island, between 3 o'clock and 4:31, that no official document accounts for. 4 different stories are filling them tonight, and every one of them is free. I do not have a theory. I have recordings, timestamps, and a pathologist's report with holes in it the sea did not make. If this is how you want a case handled, evidence first and guessing never, subscribe to Crime Watch Hub and hit that like button, because part 2 goes straight into the second half of that interview, and everything it still does not explain. How long would you wait? Your friend isn't on the boat. The boat is docked, the trailer is hitched, the sun is going down, and one person from that afternoon has not come back with you. Do you wait an hour before calling his mother? 2? Do you make it to midnight? The boat reached the dock at 6:06 in the evening. Christine Wells Wansley did not get a phone call until 11:07 that night. 5 hours. And across 6 weeks of interviews, press conferences, and legal statements, nobody has publicly accounted for them. Not the sheriff. Not the district attorney. Not the young men themselves. Every viral clip you have seen about this case skips straight over that window, because the window is boring and bracelets are exciting. I am going to spend this video inside it. You are watching Crime Watch Hub. If you would rather have the unglamorous version that holds up than the thrilling one that falls apart, hit like and subscribe now. Start with something small that has never been reconciled. Nolan didn't drive. He'd spent the night of the 3rd at a friend's house, and his car was still sitting in the yard there. At a press conference on the 10th of July, his father Elmore Wansley described going to collect the keys. He said he had issues getting them. He said the young men at the house told him they didn't know where the key was, until a girl on the phone, who had been at that house earlier in the day, said Nolan had left it on top of the Xbox. Warren Hudson has since told an interviewer there was no issue at all when the phone and keys were picked up. 2 accounts of the same 20 minutes in the same room, both delivered on camera, both by people with every reason to remember it clearly. I cannot tell you which one is accurate, and neither can anyone else, because no third party was standing there. The phone is the harder one. By the friend's account, Nolan left it on the boat before going into the water, along with roughly 15 others belonging to other people, which is ordinary behavior around saltwater. So the phone came off that island in the boat, and Nolan didn't. It ended up at a house, where the mother of one of his friends tracked it and collected it for the family, arriving after midnight. The family believes messages were removed from it. Hudson has denied touching it. And here is the part that should bother you, regardless of which side you find more credible. As of tonight, that phone has still never been forensically examined by anybody. Both sides agreed to a joint inspection back in the middle of July, with experts from each and possibly the FBI at a digital forensics lab on the coast. Then the district attorney's office demanded the device by 9 in the morning on the 14th, with under 48 hours' notice, while Nolan's parents were out of state. Yesterday, the family's attorney wrote back, offering any date between the 18th and the 21st. Their statement was 4 words. Our experts are on standby. 34 days after everyone agreed. Nobody has opened it. There is a smaller inconsistency worth naming carefully, because it has been badly told online. Police reports listed Nolan as wearing black shorts when he disappeared. Photographs from that day show him in blue. You have probably heard that framed as the friends lying about what he wore. It wasn't the friends. It was a paperwork description in an official record that didn't match the images. That is a real problem for anyone searching a shoreline, and it is not a confession. Which brings me to the thing everyone has misread. The attorney for 3 of these young men, Edward Paltzik, has repeated the same 3 names in every appearance: Morgan, Jax, Warren. Commentators have decided this is a lawyer quietly abandoning everyone else, drawing a circle of protection, and leaving the rest outside it. There is a duller explanation, and it happens to be the documented one. Paltzik and his Mississippi colleague represent exactly 3 clients, and those are their names. Bart Edmiston Jr. has his own attorney, who issued his own statement clearing him. Others have no counsel at all. A lawyer speaks for the people who hired him. That is the entire mystery. The same discipline has to apply to the autopsy. Dr. Roger Mitchell found that discoloration at the back of the head and could not say what caused it. Dr. Michael Baden, one of the most experienced forensic pathologists in the country, looked at the same description and said it could have come from bumping into something in the water, that there is a great deal of debris out there, and that what was described sounded like a minor and possibly innocent injury. He may be wrong, but you were not shown his assessment, and you should have been. Now the part nobody covering this case wants to say out loud. The theory that a martial arts hold caused that mark has no source. Not one outlet has reported it. The teenager it names has never been placed on that island by any credible source. Neither has the second young man now being accused online of driving a boat. There is no reporting of a body part visible on the deck of the towed vessel, and the footage that supposedly proves it shows 7 people and no Nolan, and was published openly rather than scrubbed. And the security cameras at the house, the ones treated as the smoking gun everyone is hiding, have never been reported to exist by anybody at all. This matters because the cost is documented. 3 people in 3 states face federal charges for threats. 1 texted a witness their own home address. 2 young men have been refused service in their own town. A fake video of Nolan's mother, built from her real face and a synthetic voice, collected money for a fund that was never real. An anonymous complaint tried to take her nursing license. It was closed as unfounded. Tomorrow, Nolan Wells would have turned 19. There is a prayer service at a church in Biloxi at 7. The state autopsy sits sealed. The grand jury has no date. The phone is still closed. 5 hours nobody has explained. That is enough. If you want a channel that will still be here when the forensic report is actually filed, subscribe to Crime Watch Hub and hit that like button. And tell me in the comments which unanswered hour you think matters most.